question that I get a lot is, I just recently went through a divorce, or I've been divorced for a little while, and through the divorce, my credit got messed up for my spouse, whether it be you were the wife or the husband, and you're either carrying the debt or they were supposed to pay off the debt that was stipulated in the divorce, and then that just didn't happen, and so now their credit's messed up and they want to buy a home. How do you remove things or help somebody that if it was a stipulation in the divorce as a joint debt and the other spouse didn't pay it off or pay it on time?
Which happens all the time.
Yes. How would you recommend, or what would be your recommendation to help them in that situation?
You know, the problem is when people go through a divorce is they think because the judge stipulated that in the divorce decree that it overrides credit, and it does not override credit. The divorce decree, you'd have to take them to court and go through all this, but you can't force, you know, let's say you had the mortgage and the husband's supposed to pay the mortgage and he hasn't been paying the mortgage. You can't dispute, we do dispute stuff as such, certain bills and stuff like that you can, but they don't have to remove it from credit because the judge says that the husband's responsible for it. So if you're on that line of credit, the only way to take it out of someone's name in a divorce, like the house or a car or a credit card, you can't just remove your name. You have to close the account and refinance it. And so if your credit isn't the best, then it's going to be hard to refinance if the spouse has been making late payments and stuff. So they can be disputed, but really you can't force them to remove something from credit because it was granted to the spouse in the divorce. So if you are co-signed on something and they're not making their payments, maybe you might have to make the payments to prevent lates from showing up if it's on your credit, even though it sucks because, you know, he's supposed to pay that, or he has the house, or she has the car, or whatever, you know. But if you want to prevent those lates and that person's not making the payment, then you might have to step in and make the payment and try to figure out how they can get it in, how they'll put it into their name. It's kind of a catch-22 because, you know, if a spouse truly is not making payments, you're kind of stuck unless you go pay it off or figure out a way to get it taken care of. But credit is really easy to be fixed if they got collections and different things in your name and it showed up. Credit, I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can do to remove credit. You just can't force them to remove it because of a divorce decree. But we can always fix it and help you and consult you through some options.
Okay. So then, that being said, I was just kind of thinking in the back of my mind when you were talking, we had talked at a previous question about bankruptcy, right? Would that be something that if the spouse filed bankruptcy, that the debts were in their name because they ultimately couldn't pay it, and that ended up becoming the resolution between the two parties? How would that affect the other person's credit in a joint account if the other spouse filed bankruptcy because they were not able to fulfill the decree of their payment fulfillment on the debt that they were supposed to carry due to the divorce?
So if a spouse files bankruptcy on joint debt, that leaves you responsible for the rest of the debt.
Okay, so you would show
so
like
it
a
doesn't
bankruptcy.
bankrupt the whole debt for both parties if only one party filed the bankruptcy.
Oh, so that's
it only bankrupts it for the party who filed, and then, you know, if you're joint on those accounts and they're late or they're charged off, it will show negative on the spouse who didn't file the bankruptcy. So that spouse, now those creditors will come after the co-borrower on those loans for that, even though the first or the spouse filed that bankruptcy. So it is their responsibility still. If they have signed on the contract for the debt originally on the application, it is both of their responsibilities. If they both file bankruptcy, then it's gone. If one does, then the other person has to pay for it.
Could be liable for it. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So there you have it.
Sorry.